As an old hand at Games Workshop's now more than 3 decades old setting, I have seen it all. Massive upswings in quality like the Imperial Armor series with the Siege of Vrax, and the single best fluff book in any setting, full stop, the Liber Chaotica, to enormous disappointments like Warhammer's The End Times, and that very self-same Liber Chaotica being taken out of sale for no longer representing the company's values. And so you should believe me when I say that it has been a long time since I have been as blindly optimistic for a 40k project as I am now. Because without even having seen a single screenshot or even a guarantee that the deal has gone through, I firmly believe that there is no man quite like Henry Cavill to deliver the Warhammer 40,000 project that all fans can be excited for. So let us dive in, shall we, and take a look at the top 5 projects and roles I think would be the best for the new Warhammer Cinematic Universe. Leonatus. A blast from the past, this one, from the days of Warhammer Monthly, a comic book featuring long and short stories from Warhammer Fantasy and 40k that ran for some 6 years. The quality vacillated quite widely at times, but there were some absolute gems in there, and amongst them one of the best was Blood Quest, which follows the Blood Angels captain Leonatus on his Pentian journey, exiled from the chapter for losing the sacred relic sword, the Blading Carmine, a weapon once granted to the chapter by the Primarch himself. There was even a TV show / movie thing in the works for a while, but it, like quite a few such projects started by GW, died before getting very far into any sort of production process. And this is an excellent opportunity to right that wrong. Cavill would be an excellent fit for Leonatus, and the captain's uniquely 40k story of struggling with an impossible quest in the name of honour, whilst having that faith and duty put to the test again and again as the captain and his party travels through the warp itself, would be a fantastic way to explore the unique psychology of the Space Marine, whom, despite their outwardly human appearance, are very different beasts than us mere mortals. But this is a drawback too, and the reason why Blood Quest only reaches number 5 on my list, because it was a story written for a very different fanbase and a very different time, when we were a small but hyper-dedicated community of fans. And the story deals with a lot of things that people need a certain level of 40k knowledge to understand, like the nature and function of the warp, the Blood Angel's secret shame, and how the Space Marines work as an organization. It would be a great story to see, but it is also a story that needs a foundation upon which to stand first. Gaviel Loken, of the Lunar Wolves, of course. I think Cavill would look quite good with blonde hair, and as a blonde person myself, I think my opinion on the matter is basically that of an expert. And Loken's story, as one of the pivotal figures of the Horus Heresy, deserves a blonde Henry Cavill portrayal. Loken was a captain of the Legiones Astartes, and a member of the Mournival, the inner circle of the Primarch Horus Lupercal, who commanded the mega armies of tens and hundreds of thousands of genetically engineered super soldiers. The force with which the Emperor of Mankind was going to conquer the galaxy. And he would have succeeded too, were it not for those pesky traitors. Now, technically, this period in Warhammer history is not even 40k, it's 30k. It is the origin story of sorts of the universe as it stands in the modern day Warhammer 40,000. An epic tale of hope, betrayal, and titanic conflict that shook the very foundations of the galaxy and the heavens and hells of the universe as well. For sheer spectacle and the weight of historic events, there is no setting like it in all of Warhammer. And that too is again kind of the problem here. To fully appreciate 30k, you must first have a relationship with 40k. The first sight of Horus Lupercal striding across a battlefield, blasting orcs on the plains of Ulanor, would simply not be the same without the full foreknowledge of just who Horus is, and why seeing him with a radiant smile, clasping hands with the Emperor at the great triumph later, is such a sight. It could serve as a baseline entry to 40k, and it certainly would be the biggest name entry in the franchise, but that just means to me that it is something to be looked forward to, something to be savoured and enjoyed later when the enormous budget required to do it justice and the fanbase are both good and ready. Gregor Eisenhorn, the classic pick, as old Gregor is one of the big figures in 40k literature. As the main character in Dan Abnett's Inquisitor series of novels, Gregor has seduced blanks, fought demons, and saved the Imperium, all whilst looking dapper as hell. He is also a very humanizing figure, bringing a reasoned face to one of the Imperium's at times least human of organizations, the God Emperor's most holy Inquisition. It would also serve as a bit more of a newbie-friendly introduction to 40k, since an Inquisitor like Eisenhorn has a 10,000-foot view of the Imperium, and is of course accompanied by his trusty savant servant Uber Amos, a living encyclopedia ready and able to dish out helpful lore blurbs to situate new and old viewers alike in the rich and dark future of the 41st millennium. I will still say though, it is still not the most welcoming setting, as Inquisitors atmosphere somewhat distanced from, and frankly outright separated from the rest of the Imperium and humanity. Plus, I think this is the character most unalike to Henry Cavill, in terms of appearance and style. I figured he could pull it off, but I've always envisioned Eisenhorn as more of a Mark Strong or a Tom Hardy type of character, with Carl Urban by his side as Godwin Fishig, the ex-Arbites. Now wouldn't that be a dream team? Ragnar Blackmane. Henry Cavill has already played the White Wolf, so why not the Black Wolf too? And honestly, out of all the entries on this list, this is the one I want to see myself the most personally, as I think Cavill's portrayal of Geralt in The Witcher, his gruff style there would mix fantastically with the combination of savagery and mirth of the Space Wolves chapter. That mix of the also inhuman space marines, but with the levity of crazed, drunkard space Vikings, is just irresistible. And the saga of Blackmane would also serve as a great bottom floor level introduction to the wider universe that is 40k. Not just the Space Marine and sci-fi of it all, but instead going from the frozen Viking villages of Fenris to the harsh snow-covered training camp of the Wolves, and all the way to Terra and back as a fully fledged Space Wolf. Ragnar Blackmane really goes on a full tour of the Imperium. It's got tons of varied locales, excellent action, intrigue, and comedy aplenty. A fantastic way to draw in old and new fans alike whilst showing off all of the awesome variety that 40k has to offer. Going from straight up sword and sorcery, or axes and curses in this way, all the way up to power armor and ginormous guns that blow people in half. And frankly, The only reason why this isn't number 1 is because, in terms of overall what would be the best first entry into a 40k cinematic universe, there is still an even better series. Ciaphas Cain, the hero of the Imperium. Or at least, so everybody else seems to think. For you see, Ciaphas Cain, Imperial Commissar, and one of the most highly decorated individuals since the times of legends, just wants to live. And if at all possible, he would like to do so as far away from any violence as he can. And Cain takes a very active role in avoiding aforementioned violence whenever possible. He will happily run away with his tail between his legs at the first sign of danger. He will gladly hide in the dirtiest of holes if it means getting out of the way of the bolter fire. And he always makes sure that his trusty aide, Jurgen, has his own body solidly interposed between Cain and anything that might cause him bodily harm. Because of this cautious approach, some might even go so far as to call Ciaphas a coward. But no, I say, in a world where simple, mere mortal men are expected to sword-fight demigods and insect monsters the size of semi-trucks, there is no such thing as cowardice. Only dead heroes and survivors. And don't make the mistake either of thinking such a show would be lacking for action. Oh no, because despite Cain's best efforts, the gods have taken quite a liking to seeing him suffer, and combinations of twists of faith and Cain's own big fat mouth consistently lands him directly in the way of every alien conspiracy and chaos invasion within 100 solar systems. Ciaphas Cain is the best entry-level show of 40k, because screw the big burly space marines. They're cool, sure, but there's nothing human about them. Even a man like Ragnar Eisenhorn is one on a mission, a zealous man who will happily march millions to their screaming deaths without batting an eye if it will save the Imperium, whilst Cain, he's just a guy, stuck in absurd circumstances, trying his best not to get eaten alive by the freshest monstrosity to clack its mandibles at him. It has got great action, fantastic humour, and the best, most amazing, humanizing, and lovable characters, like the aforementioned Jurgen, whose body odour has been described as stringent enough to peel the paint of a Land Raider. And of course, the ever-charming Ciaphas Cain himself. And for some reason, I just can't help but think that Henry Cavill would do extremely well with this mixed role, where for everyone else, he is the stoic war hero, every bit the rough and tough fighter we saw portrayed in The Witcher, but who will also sidestep straight into a broom closet at a moment's notice to avoid detection by the army general, who no doubt has another suicide mission for Ciaphas tucked up in his cavernous sleeves. I think Cavill would do that combination of pretend bravado and genuine humour really, really well. And honourable mention at the end here, because I know a lot of you have been thinking it as well, Big E in a Horus Heresy setting. Now, I can see the appeal, but here's the thing. Big E should not have an actor. The God Emperor should not have an actor. He should be a luminous being. He should be an ephemeral entity. He should be something that arrives on screen, and his sheer presence is so overwhelming you cannot even see him. His voices should be that of a dozen different excellent actors with nice, deep voices. He should be as a god to mere mortal men. The God Emperor is not an entity to be brought down to the level of everyone else. He must remain distinct, distant, and aloof. For that is the only way to maintain his spell over the audience and over 40k in general. Plus, you gotta admit, it would be kind of a waste to put Henry Cavill in a role that's only got like a dozen appearances in the entirety of the Horus Heresy, and maybe 24 speaking lines? The Emperor, for all of his importance, does not have the big role in the Horus Heresy that maybe he deserved, but also that role that whenever he was given it, as in The Master of Mankind, for example, it was used to destroy the character of the Emperor rather than build him up. And now that you've got my top picks, the first Top Anything video I've ever done on YouTube, and I do feel a little bit dirty, yes, thank you for asking, please do leave your own in the comment section down below. And until next time, I have been Arch. Thank you all very much for watching, and I hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.